A huge part of the text material, it talks about different algorithms and processing of arrays. So please take a look at your textbook and please study some of those algorithms. I'm going to talk about some of them here, but programs and coding are created to process data, and arrays are a useful way to process data. There are some other things that we can use besides arrays that are more efficient maybe, but for right now we are learning about arrays. And so a couple of things to think about. What are some algorithms that we might want to do or work with? For example, you might want to search to find a particular element, and especially like if I want to search for an item number in order to find the price with parallel arrays. I might want to find all the occurrences of an element. How many times does the letter E occur? How many times does the number 10 occur? How many times is the data more than 1 or more than 0 or more than 50? I might want to find a minimum element, a maximum element. I might want to calculate the average and find the mean, the mode, the median, or check to see if an array is sorted. I might also want to sort an array. And so please go ahead. I mean, it is going to be worth your time to look through each of these algorithms and just kind of take a look at what some of them do. So array processing algorithms. So for example, treat an array element like any variable. So here you can pre-increment to a score. You can post decrement. You can do hours bracket 3 times rate. So you can use an array element just like any variable when you are processing. The index is an integer, and watch for the difference between the following: score counter plus plus versus score plus plus counter versus score counter plus plus. So the first one is going to take, for example, if counter was 3, it would be output score sub 3. This next one would output score sub 4 because it's a pre-increment. It will add 1 before it outputs. And then the last one actually will change the value of what's in score counter sub 3. It would actually add 1 to that value. So there is a difference between these three items. Just kind of watch for that. You cannot copy one array into another with the assignment operator. You must copy element by element. So you can't just say array prices equals array new prices. You have to actually go line by line or element by element. And so you need some type of a loop in order to process that. And it has to be, it can't be the shortcut loop because you need to be able to change the value of the items. Remember, the ranged base loop does not change values in the array. You cannot print the contents of an array in one print statement. With a cout, you have to print them element by element. And so in order to print, you're going to be outputting with a for loop. You could also do a range-based loop to do your output. If all you're doing is outputting, you could use that ranged-based loop. You can use a loop and an accumulator to sum elements. You're going to need to do this in your program when you find the averages. And so inside of an array, you can make sure outside of the array you initialize a value to 0. That has to be outside the loop because you don't want to reinitialize to 0 inside the loop. And then you're going to just sum will be assigned sum plus and then array name bracket counter. Okay. You could also use, they're talking about the shortcut operator here. You could use a sum plus equals array1 bracket counter. Use a for loop and an accumulator and a variable to average elements. This is exactly what your program is going to need to do. You do want to watch for integer division. If your data happens to be integer data and you're dividing by the size of the array, you might end up with an integer division, so be careful of that. Other algorithms, finding the highest and the lowest values. You can use a while loop to create partially filled arrays. You cannot compare arrays using a single line of code using a comparison operator. You must compare element by element. So please study these processes here and look at the ones that are in your textbook, okay? Your first program, as I talked about before, is to write this arrays average elements. And if you study the code up above, you've basically kind of got the solution written for you. And then by the end of the course, you are going to need to create or show me that you can do an array of objects. So I'm kind of expecting you to do this in your semester project, so I haven't assigned it as a separate assignment, but if I don't see that in your semester project, you will have to do that at some point in time. That wraps up our videos, 2 videos for the introduction to arrays. you can start working on that first arrays assignment now.